Welcome to Sincerely Carolina, where we have conversations with local and international guests about current social issues to create awareness based on expertise and factual information. Remember, you can win fun prizes by participating in the weekly Learn and Win Wednesday quizzes on my Instagram. Sincerely Carolina is powered by Proframe Aruba, Neutrogena, and Febreze. Hello, happy Monday. Happy New Week. Sorry we're a little late, but we have two international guests. One is here in the studio and the other one is online. So that's why we took some time, and I have a scrunchie in my hand. I'm so sorry. So what do we do first? Oh, right. Happy Monday. Happy New Week. Thank you to Sopi Mix Studio for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. Thank you to my awesome sponsors for making Sincerely Carolina possible. Thank you to Neutrogena, to Proframe, to Febreze. And we will be sharing a little bit about what we learned during one of the UNESCO Caribbean trainings called SHEroes, which was to target or actually discuss ways in which youth advocates can help change and transform mentalities to stop gender-based violence and really get the conversation on equality and equity for women in the Caribbean going. And discussing what role men and boys play in this as well. So we will be talking a little bit about that. I'm really excited because I have a guest from Anguilla and I have a guest from St. Vincent. So yeah, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves. Hello. How are you, ladies? So who wants to go first?
Jamila?
Tyeisha.
Hello.
It's
All right.
fine. I'll go
Hello, everyone. Tyeisha going first.
first. No, go ahead.
Tyeisha going first.
Okay, so who's gonna go?
You guys hearing me?
Loud and
Yes, we
clear.
can. You can go ahead,
Okay,
Jamila.
great. So hello, everyone. Thank you, Carolina, for having me. I feel so special.
Aw.
Good night, Tyeisha. Good night, Carolina, and everyone else. My name is Jomelia Douglas. I'm from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'm a sexual and reproductive health and rights advocate. I also work at the Mental Health Rehabilitation Center in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I do a bit of occupational therapy, social work, and counseling as well. And I'm also wearing my orange in support of
Yes.
15 days of activism as we're closing in this week. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. It's your turn now.
Yes. Good evening, all. Good evening, those listening via our social media platform. Thank you, Carolina, for having me. I feel special as well. I am from the beautiful island of Anguilla. I am 20 years old. I am the Deputy Premier and Minister of Social Development and Education in the Anguilla Youth Parliament. I am also a team member for the first young female empowerment organization in Anguilla. I am also a UE Stat ambassador, meaning student today, alumni tomorrow for my university, amongst many other things. My passions lies with gender development, community, sports, what else? Youth development, of course, and civic engagement, mental health. I think I can go on. However, I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. And once we started the course, it was really nice because everybody started mentioning where they're from. And Tyeisha sent me a message like right away. She was like, I'm coming to Aruba soon
Yes.
and give me your number. Which was so nice because I immediately thought, we could do an episode. And I'm happy to hear that your training here, the reason why you're in Aruba, of course, is
Yes.
going well as well. So yes, I think that I just want to mention that we are live. So if you have questions, you can ask questions on our Facebook. That's what I have open and I can see. But remember that you can always share the link and rewatch later and re-listen as well once we go on Apple Podcast and Spotify tomorrow. So just so you know. So the conversation around gender development was really centered in the SHEroes Academy. And I think one of the things that really came up was that there is a lot of positive progress for
Yes.
Caribbean women in general. I mean, we have seen a huge shift of yes, they're being more active in the economic sphere, so more jobs, good jobs as well, to the
Yes.
point where we have seen, you know, considerable, I would say, change in what used to be the standard of who in a relationship or in a family is the breadwinner, where that's not as defined anymore. Yet, Caribbean men and some women, of course, still hold this as a rule. And this is causing some issues. So I don't know. Ladies, feel free to chime in. Um, why? I mean, and we discussed that a little bit in the course as well. But why is this an issue? And I'm looking at Tyeisha, like, you can go. Or Jomelia, do you want to go?
Tyeisha can go ahead.
Wow, it's always Tyeisha.
I went first the first time.
I believe it's an issue because of our social norms and traditions. And this makes us who we are as a society. However, we have to remember that we are society. We are the future of today. Whatever decisions we make will impact us in time to come and generations to come. So if we want to reach to that point of gender equality and gender equity, then we need to change what we are doing today. Not because you are a male or a female, that means that you have to go down this career path. I think it's important on that person's go down the career path that they are passionate about, regardless of gender. I am definitely happy to say that we don't necessarily have this issue in Anguilla, because especially when it comes to parliament, you know, I like politics. When it comes to
Yes.
parliament, women in Anguilla are offered the opportunity. Currently, there are 4 members in parliament that are women, and I like to give Anguilla a round of applause. And that is something you don't see in the rest of the Caribbean, neither the world. So I think that's a stepping stone to gender equality when it comes to politics.
Yes, and you know, in Aruba, we see that as well. We have right now a female prime minister. This is her second term, and she has another minister colleague that's also female. And we see this growing, right? But another thing that we see is what we focus on. So I think I just want to mention that, like you just said, opportunities have grown and
Yes.
they have become fairer. But it's how we treat women in those positions that is different. So I was looking at a video, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, of 2 prime ministers of a certain country, and then the questions around them meeting each other seemed so superficial. And you know, and people will be like, why are you asking them that, and not like, you know, in the context of them being prime ministers.
Yeah.
And one of them even responded like, I don't think you asked Barack Obama this question, you know, like, why is this relevant?
What the Caribbean leaders?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think that would have gone differently.
Of course. Of course.
I don't think they would have been so polite about it.
Definitely not.
And that's the thing too, right? We have seen, and I do want us to think about how peculiar our own situation is
Yes.
compared to the world, because we tend to look at, you know, what's happening in the U.S. or in Europe, but it's not necessarily a picture of what happens in the Caribbean. People in the Caribbean, a lot more outspoken, but we also engage in groups. We are community people. So these type of issues, it's like we all care about them to different extents and different levels. But those roles that used to be very defined are no longer defined. And Caribbean men apparently are having a hard time making peace with this new reality. So something that I like that we discussed during the training is how the word provided has also been linked to money, like all the time.
That's true.
Yeah, that can mean so many other things.
It all leans on interpretation.
Yes, but it's been so attached that the value of man has been attached to money rather than time and other types of resources.
Yes.
Jomelia, I see you shaking your head. Do you want to chime in?
Yeah, sure. I was actually agreeing, and to go off of your question, you asked what was the issue, and I think the issue is change. We're so accustomed to they're so accustomed to traditional roles in terms of women are said to be this, men are said to be that. Girls shouldn't play outside, but boys could play outside. Girls can't be mechanics, but boys could be mechanics. So now that we're showing that different genders could operate in different career paths, I think it's shocking and not so welcomed because we're not accustomed to that. So for instance, when we did our outreach program on the leeward side of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because we had did a survey on gender-based violence, and we found that it was higher amongst the leeward side of the islands. So we went down there just to get some feedback in terms of why do you think gender-based violence is happening, and most of the response from the men was that women are working, women have all the jobs. Men are if a woman is working, it's completely different from when a man is working, because a man is supposed to be a provider. However, when a woman is working, she's not supposed to be a provider. So I think there's a as we're talking about changing mentalities, there's a lot of things that we have to delve deep in that I think people are not ready to have that conversation.
And definitely not.
Because even when we try challenging them, like, okay, well, what's wrong with women working? She's not supposed to be working. Yeah, but why?
Why?
Why? And most of them could not answer why. And most of them were also ignorant, and especially the older ones. They were more so set in their ways of, well, that's how we grew up. Yeah, but then we're trying to change that now, because you wouldn't want that for your son or your daughter or your neighbor's daughter or your neighbor's son to be growing up in.
And that's the thing, right? Being set in a certain way. And I think that, like you said, it's hard. It's hard because it's shocking. They're set. It's how it always has been, right? Those are the type of comments that people get. But also because the results are not necessarily tangible. So people don't necessarily see immediately the impact of creating fair opportunities and treating people in those places the same. And I mean, that's where the word equality and equity come into place. So women have the same opportunities. What are you complaining about? One, but two, are they, are there issues and their struggles being considered in those equal opportunities? So exactly. Yes, women and men are working, and in some cases both, for example, work full-time jobs. The moment that they go home, are those chores divided equally? Or is the work at home, caregiving for, whether it is children or elders, is that being divided equally? And that's where those things that are really hard to measure come into play, especially because things have been assigned to genders. Yeah. So cooking, the women, and taking care of the children and cleaning and all that stuff.
Nurturing and everything.
Because even Because even if women are working, they're still expected to come home and still be a mother. They're
Yep.
still expected to
Precisely.
come home and still provide for their families, not financially, but in other ways. So
Exactly.
even though we are saying that yes, women are working,
Mm-hmm.
they're still picking up most of the slack at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, my point. So, if women are working, why not help with keeping the house clean,
Mm-hmm.
etc.? Things around the house. I mean, we won't complain if we see you helping. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's
Tyeisha,
tell me.
as to that, right?
Okay, I
I do
pause
agree
for
with you. Don't
cause.
get me wrong, I do agree with you. But one of the gentlemen had said that when the woman was at home, she was cooking, cleaning, and everything, and the guy was working.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll come home, whatever the case is, and she had everything done. However, when he lost his job and she started working, she started losing respect for him because he started picking up the household chores.
But no, man,
So
something wrong.
I know you're saying that we
Yeah.
wouldn't complain because that's us. But there are women
Yep.
out there
Who
who
will?
lose respect for men because they're doing those things. Because to them, a man is not supposed to be doing those
I was
things.
gonna say that.
So
I
that
think
goes back
that
to mentality. So we have to
yes,
transform
Mentality,
mentalities in the
yes,
exactly.
Caribbean.
On
exactly,
both,
and that's
exactly.
the
For
thing.
both genders.
One of the things that we see a lot in the Caribbean is that women in the Caribbean are very sexist too.
Yeah,
And
we are.
people think that that's impossible, right? If all women, all women believe in equality and all women are feminists, and I'm like, no, 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 no.
No,
Listen,
no.
that's not how it works. And the case scenario that you're mentioning is exactly that. And that's also the cases where we have been so forgiving to gender-based violence in the
Yes.
past as well.
Yeah.
And, when we talk about gender-based violence, we're not only talking about physical, but a lot of what we actually see is emotional,
Yeah.
really. Where I was talking not too long ago with somebody on social media when I was sharing about this upcoming episode and stuff, and she mentioned that. When a man is the provider, the financial provider, as we should mention it, or the main financial provider, because even if like the woman works, but he earns more, for example, he is also allowed some, like, I don't know, space to do stuff that is not okay. And that is considered like a norm within our cultures. And, if a man is doing like his part, then the women should be grateful and allow certain things like extramarital affairs. And this comes from women. Like, I've
I'm
heard it.
trying to come to
I know,
terms with
I
what
know.
you are saying.
Exactly. Because again, we obviously participated in this course because I think all three of us are feminists and we all three believe in equality and equity.
Yes.
But these are things that we hear. So when we think about transforming mentalities and engaging men and boys, it's also engaging their mothers, their sisters.
Yes.
It's
Everybody.
making sure that moms are not teaching their children that it's normal for men to cheat, for example,
Yeah.
or to not do anything at home. So all of these little things are so ingrained in our culture that it's hard, right?
But we have to remember that the impact a child has come from his or her environment. So if his or her environment make them to believe that that is the norm through the socialization process, well, that is their reality.
Yep.
And that's all they know. So it is up for us, youth advocates within the Caribbean, to change the mentality of our society today and make them come to terms and understand that this is not the mentality to have. This is not gender equality, neither leading us to the point of gender equity. The um situations or challenges that comes within our society or the social issues are caused by us. If we don't prevent them, if we don't advocate on behalf of others that are being impacted about what we are here discussing, then there won't be no change. Last year, well, in 2021, there were 176 domestic cases in Anguilla. And earlier today, I was talking with a social worker here in Aruba, and she told me for the year thus far, there were 330 domestic violence cases. And to me, that's wow. However, the population here is 100,000 and something, not
Yes.
too certain exactly what it is, but Anguilla is just 15,000 people or less. So to compare, for me, that's very alarming. But what we have to consider too, when COVID-19 happened, the cases in domestic violence rose globally.
Yes.
And it is very sad and disheartening that this is our sad reality. This is the things that women are finding to be acceptable. And we have to be grateful for 16 days of activism so that we can advocate on behalf of those that are being impacted by these negative social norms and
Yes.
social issues.
And like you said, those are the cases that are reported, right?
Exactly. What about those that are not, especially when it comes to child abuse and these other things? Because most times it is people that are grooming them, and when you groom them, they tend to trust them. And they won't report. And then too, when it comes to protection and privacy, sometimes, because you may be a little while, society is going to judge you and say, oh, she like that ain't true. But you don't know what she's going through mentally, physically, nothing, emotionally. And sometimes these girls are hurt, and because they are looking for that love and acceptance, they tend to go down a wrong path. But we need to advocate on their behalf. We
Exactly.
need to show them some sort of love and affection, whether it's in school, being a friend. We need to be there for them because we need to change the mentality.
Yes. I mean, yeah. So as part of the course, we had to work out some projects on what we learned.
Yes.
And I think that it was very interesting to work with different countries and different people with different backgrounds and just try to.
For me, it was easy. My
Okay.
group was amazing. The chemistry and everything.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think our
Very.
group was really nice too.
Yeah, it was.
But I think that that's something that we notice is that reaching everyone, which is what you would want,
Yes.
is hard. No matter, even if like you have a smaller island, like you just mentioned, it's still hard because these are conversations that don't bring like a happy feeling. So people are not gonna easily listen to you. So how do you get to them where they're at and where they can listen and genuinely learn and hopefully change a behavior. And that's hard. It's hard, right?
Well, I can say congratulations to the Gender Affairs Unit in Anguilla. What they did during the 16 days of activism, they had a rally throughout our capital, basically, Orange Anguilla. So persons had orange T-shirts, and through the use of activism, it had persons delivering messages, etc. And we know that activism impacts persons and they tend to remember, and through that it was sharing information as well as they did outreach in the schools, carrying out sending brochures, etc. Well, giving out brochures, etc. As well as having that forum for those that are leaving school. So between the ages of 15 to 17 per se, So informing them because they are going to be our next generation of
Yep.
adults. So it's a matter of just informing our approach, the way in which we advocate and how we advertise. My campaign was, well, my group's campaign, can't say it was totally mine, you know. Our, our theme for our campaign was perspectives unveiling the mask. And we as a society, when it comes to males and female, we tend to hide everything on the inside or behind closed doors. So just like how in COVID we weren't recognizing each other with masks, I was like, okay, when we take off the mask, we realize who we really are. And, you know, it'd be like, oh, that's Carolina, hi. You know, I didn't notice you with a mask. So it's the same thing. You know, we put up this charade like everything is okay. We're normal. We're going to fight for it. Yes, I'm okay. But behind closed doors, we are being abused. We are being tormented. We are being controlled. And that is not acceptable. So through our campaign, the plan is to do launch, and on the launch would be November 17th, I believe, and the launch would be open to all persons, no matter age, gender, or anything, focusing on everyone doing a rally, launch of the campaign. And just basically through the use of activism, educating the public about what is gender-based violence. And then on November 19, International Men's Day, we do a forum for men particularly so that they can have the opportunity to speak up about issues that they are dealing with. And of course, it's going to be led by men, everything men. You know, women should not intervene because as we learn from SHEroes, men tend to think differently. And when they were sharing the information on the second day, I was like, men actually think this way? That is why they feel so sensitive when we use certain words. So now when we are communicating, we're more conscious about what we are going to say, our choice of words, you know, not trying to be too loud, you know, but keeping it settled because of how they may perceive something. And we don't want them to feel belittled on anything. And then on the 25th of November, Elimination of Violence Against Women's Day, having a forum for women to advocate and do the same. And on December 10th, Human Rights Day, bringing together both male and female so we can have the conversations of whatever issues are mutual and try to come to terms or have a solution to combat the issue at hand. Well, issues that would have been shared. And you know, of course, you have to meet two parties separately when it comes to intervention, then to come together, because it would be disaster if they both acted together. You know, it'll be a back and forth and we won't come to a conclusion. So yes, I think it's, for me, I like the idea collaborating with those that were a part of my group. It was very easy, and I think with the few hours that we had, we all delivered well. So congratulations to all of those that participate in SHEroes 2022.
Yes, I think that exactly. And that's, you know, something that I thought was really nice is, like you said, a couple of hours, but how so many people in different groups from different countries were able to come together and in less than 24 hours come up with a plan for, you know, advocating and truly what it is, a plan for activism for the Caribbean. So that made me think as well that sometimes when we're giving too much time and space to think about these issues and how we're going to tackle them, we overthink.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
You know?
I am a prime example of overthinking.
Yes. And then what this showed us is that, you know, of course, you would need to really go into the details of the plan and when and where, but the actual gist of it, just understanding why it's important to have spaces for women, spaces for men,
Yes.
to be themselves, to talk about what affects them, and just discussing it. So, it was 16 different countries from the
Yes.
Caribbean. In our group, for example, Jomelia was in my group, but we had Suriname, we had St. Vincent, and
Saint Lucia?
St. Lucia, yes, and Aruba.
Yeah.
And it's just okay. What does it look like for you? What do you think is reasonable? And just thinking and
Right,
sharing, like,
Yes, it was the same.
Yes.
In my group was Nevis, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, Suriname, and then Anguilla. Yes.
so it's
So it was very diverse.
exactly,
Yes.
and yet we
And I
were
feel like
able.
that helps as well.
Sorry.
I was saying I felt like that helped as well because we also saw other countries' weaknesses and strengths.
Yes.
And how similar we think and what
Yes.
we are doing.
Exactly.
Yes.
Right,
And I
right,
think
right.
we have a tendency to think that the Caribbean is behind on certain things.
Yes.
But when we were doing our research for our group, for example, we were looking at laws and policies. Our countries had some stuff in place that was really great in regards to how they're going to tackle gender-based violence, reporting, sentences, anti-discrimination laws and policies. So on paper, I think that we should, give credit where credit is due. And the Caribbean is doing all right. I think it's in the little nuances and the social aspect of
Yeah.
it where we need to work on it. And like you said, creating spaces, right? Creating
Yes, creating
spaces
space is very important.
that are safe. Yes, word choices. So I learned a lot during that too. I was like, oh my gosh, my vocabulary needs to get adapted.
I thought the same way as well. I
Yes.
was like, wait, I haven't heard about that word yet.
Yes, but also like little do's and don'ts. I like how, we had men come and also tell us,
Yes.
what works and what
Yes.
doesn't
It
work.
worked. Yes, that was really
I
nice.
really wanted to see more men though, but
Yes, indeed.
I
But
was
Coach
I
did
was
a
happy
good
we had a
job.
bit.
Yes.
He really did. He really did.
Yes.
He was actually speaking for UE earlier
Mm-hmm.
that day when he spoke to us, and I was
Yeah.
actually listening to him. So I basically heard what he basically said twice. But what he said was really impactful. And one of the things that stood out was that if you get a room and you really want to know men's perspective, just like we were talking about, then you put men together.
Exactly.
And not necessarily men and women, because then men are going to say things differently if a woman
Yep.
is present, and they might actually be more quiet.
Yes.
And one of the things I think that was important is how we go about engaging men.
Yes.
And
I
I think that's
must.
difficult for us as
Yes.
well as
Yeah.
women trying to engage men, because one of my male friends actually had an issue with something. So I was like, well, speak up about it. He's like, I'm not a woman. You're not gonna listen to me. I'm like, you don't have to be a woman to speak up about what's going on. And one of the things I really want men to realize is that not speaking up can lead to you not getting what you want.
Precisely. But that is across the board. If you don't speak up, how can we know what you are going through?
Exactly. So we were having a discussion about suicide attempts. Well, suicide in general. And they were saying that it's higher, wait, let me frame this right. Attempting suicide is higher among women than it is men. Men would actually commit it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. And if that's not alarming to you, then I do not know what is.
Yeah.
I know men have been taught to, that, probably what they're saying doesn't matter. You're a man, you're not supposed to have feelings, not supposed to show emotions. But one of the things I would like men to do is that we can't help you if we do not know what's
No.
bothering you.
Exactly.
We cannot give you the medicine if we do not know what's hurting.
Yes.
And
And
those are
I,
things,
I,
yeah.
Exactly. And then he was basically saying, well, like, maybe you can talk for me. I do not know what you're feeling. So I can't talk to you. I could only be like, oh, well, he's feeling such and such. But then they're not really going to grasp the intensity of what you're feeling because it's not coming from you.
And it's usually that they haven't been giving the space to truly like
To
express
right.
themselves
Express,
and
yeah.
know how to express themselves. Um, so I think that is also very important, right? Talking about feelings in general,
Yeah,
identifying those feelings
yeah,
and emotions, and as they come and when they come, where
yeah.
they come, especially with children, so that they grow up with the tools to be able to express something so they can express what they need or want.
Yeah, and that
Yeah.
all comes through strengthening their soft skills. But I must say, recently in Anguilla, they have started, how would I say, a series which they will do every quarter. And it is entitled, our theme, Reality versus Mentality, a
Okay.
frank conversation about men's mental health. And this is so imperative in Anguilla because we don't pay keen attention to men, and it is important that we hear them out and we be there for them, as well as when I was walking at the Ministry of Social Development and Education, we did training for men, well, psychosocial training for men in the, how to say it, the national security aspect, including educators, just paying keen attention to their mental health and the impact that COVID would have had on them, etc. And the feedback was positive feedback, as well as just having the conversation and listen out to them. Another initiative that the ministry had was pins to represent their emotions and how they were feeling. If you're feeling good, great or bad, or not in the mood for talking, you just wear a pin to express that, because some men are very few with words.
Yes. And those are small initiatives
It's small
that
but impactful.
exactly. And that's the thing, right? We tend to want to look at really big things. And again, by all means, you know, policies and legislation that protect people are so important. I'm not saying they're not. Of course they are. But there is so much more to do in like these little things. Like you said, it's a process. And if the meantime a pin works, a pin works. And
Precisely.
and that's okay, but it's allowing them the space to be true to their emotions and their feelings,
Yes.
and just letting them be. So I think that there's a lot of work to be done, and by all means, I think that we can do so much, but I think we need more men on this journey,
Yes, true.
right?
Yes.
We need more men willing to be talking to other male counterparts about these things, about why it's okay to talk about your emotions, why it's important to be an active participant in the household, how rewarding it is to have beautiful relationships with your children,
Yeah.
right? That's one of the things that one of the men shared in the training as well, in the coach, how he talks to other men and he says, if you are the one at home cooking, you are a provider, you are
Precisely.
providing. It's really
Exactly.
nice
Exactly.
to your children to be able to look up to you, to be able to share with you. Like, those are beautiful moments, but you have to foster them.
Yes.
And sadly, in order to foster them, sometimes it's letting go of those gender roles and gender norms, which can be really hard, especially if the people around you are constantly being like,
And
oh,
you're
why are you doing
comfortable.
women's stuff? What were you saying, Julia?
Exactly. No, I was saying it's gonna be uncomfortable for them as well because if it's been ingrained in you that you're supposed to be a particular way, and now somebody's coming along and saying, "Hey, it's okay, you can do other things." It's like, what are you talking about? You know?
So it's showing as well, being able to showcase that, right? Which is also hard because sometimes you will have men that will be, positive examples of positive masculinity. But if you ask them to talk about that with their peers, and then they're like, no,
That's where
because
the problem lies. Yeah.
because they're afraid, right?
Yeah,
Of
but what I have done, because I have been a substitute teacher for personal social health education in Anguilla, we call it PSHE. And what I do is create that safe space where they can have these conversations. And to me, it's so fulfilling to see them engaging in the conversation, their feedback, talking about genital mutilation, talking about gender transformation, and other topics that are taboo within our society, to see that they want to advocate and actually speak about the issues that are impacting them and their and the society. Slow down. And the society, for me, that's a fulfilling feeling, and it always make me happy to go back and have the conversation with them. Just hearing teach, we miss having PSHE with you and having the conversations and creating that safe space, because if we don't create it, who else will? Yeah.
And that's the thing, it's creating it, right?
Yes.
So I don't know. I'm gonna ask you both, and then I'll add something to it. What is something that you think is a practical tip for, our communities as the Caribbean, but men maybe or women specifically, on how we can push these changes, creating these safe spaces so that these changes can happen? Teacher, do you want to go first?
Okay. But often we sit and we have the conversation. We need change. We need to do this. We need to do that. However, we can be the change instead of saying, do this, do that. You start it. You actually would be responsible for transforming the changes that you want to see. If you need additional human resources, that's easy. Having a conversation or even writing a proposal. Sometimes our proposal may get denied, but that doesn't mean that you need to stop. Try to meet like-minded person, networking, collaborating. We don't need funds to actually advocate or get things done. Sometimes it's just like, we go to your producer, can we use your studio to have a conversation? And look, we are here having a conversation because it's about changing society and the way we think, our mentality, in order for persons to understand and to reach an audience. And we know there are various means of reaching an audience. So just choose which medium that you want to use. So let's stop saying the policy makers aren't doing this, they aren't giving funding for this, but let us be the change in society. We need to start being agents instead of complaining, because you are the change.
I agree. And as a policymaker myself, I hear this a lot, right? And it's frustrating. It's frustrating
It's Ruby.
to be in a position where, yes, we have important work to do as a government, as policymakers, our parliament, as lawmakers. Everybody has a very important role to play, but at the same time, we also need you to be on board, because I can sit behind my computer and think like, oh, okay, in my case, I'm a health policy maker. I can be like, okay, I'm gonna make a policy which is gonna ensure equality and equity when providing health services, right? But if the people who have to actually work in these fields and the patients are not aware of why it's important, they don't understand how it works and how it should work, then those policies don't really matter.
Precisely.
You can put all the money in the world and you can put all the rules in place, but if the people that need to live by it do not understand it and believe it, it's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Because most times we complain about the system doesn't work, da da da. But at the end of the day, we are the ones that operate the system.
Yep.
How functionable our system is dependent on us, us the consumers, and us the administrators.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Jomelia, do you want to add to what are, practical things that we can do?
So one of the practical things I'm thinking of is research. I do believe that documentation and data is important,
Yes.
and especially when, as Tyeisha is talking about, when you're drafting proposal, you must back up what you're saying. You know, I think we go about saying, like gender-based violence is wrong, da 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 da, but then we're not really. I think each circumstance is different, and to get the groundwork from the research is what I think is important.
Yes.
So at least when you're coming up with policies, then you're seeing how best you can tailor to, I don't want to say each individual, but the majority. Because we could just come up with a general policy, but we never experienced gender-based violence and just throw it out there. And then that implementation wouldn't work for everybody.
Exactly.
So it's good to get both sides, from the perpetrator and the victim and other parties well. So we're all having a conversation, and it's not just, we know this happening, so let me just see what we could do about it. But instead, we do research, groundwork. Another thing as well, looking at other Caribbean countries. I don't want to say I'm a little ashamed of my little island,
No.
but I am, because I do think we can do a lot more. What I'm seeing here more, it's more sort of little groups doing things and not necessarily on a governmental level, which I think it should be happening. As Tyeisha is talking about, it's like, damn, St. Vincent don't do that, And even Carolina, when we were having discussions about our presentation, I was like, wait, we don't do that. I don't think one cap is gonna fit all, but then we could also see what our neighboring countries are doing, that we could also take it, whether we switch it up and make it to suit us.
Yeah, and that's something that you said that was very important, right? We need data to understand our own situations before we can move forward. And when we say the word research, people tend to think like, oh my gosh, 5 years of research and analyzing data so somebody can do their PhD and yada yada. And by all means, that's important work, like it is. But we need things that remain relevant. So we need to be able to measure things continuously so that we can act on them in a timely manner. So we can't just be waiting until somebody decides to do their PhD on some Caribbean issue, and then they come and then they do research for a couple of years, and then by the time that they publish, the data is not necessarily relevant. So we can do a lot from just getting out there and understanding what is it that you're going through and what is that you need. And like you said, involving perpetrators in that conversation as well. And that can be, maybe not everybody is on board with that. And I understand why too. But it's also because cancel culture, right? You can change your opinion and you can change your mind. You can grow and become better. And that is something that people have a hard time with. So somebody could have done something that is wrong or negative and then learn why it was wrong, why it was negative, and come on the other side, tell us how they learned that and what was the positive effect of that. But yes, so we got a comment from Jeremy Malcolm. And And he's saying that he joined late, but he has found that one of those most comfortable places where he found constructive conversations about emotions is actually in the barber shops.
Oh, yes.
And we learned
Yeah.
about this, right? So it's nice to see somebody actually say that
I
it
know,
works.
right?
Yeah.
But of course, he said, provided that someone is there with genuine intentions.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, I don't know about barbershops because I've never been to barbershops, but I have full-on conversations with my nail tech.
Yes.
Like, I will
I
sit
do as
there.
well.
My nail tech is
No.
like my
Yeah.
counselor sometimes. Let's have the
Everything.
conversation. You my
Everything.
person.
Yes. And you're sitting there because you're doing something that you're hopefully enjoying, but you have to get done. And then you just have conversation. Of course, they're not a professional in the field,
Yeah.
and they'll just bounce off ideas
Yes.
with you, but it is a calm place to have those conversations. And the idea that men can't have these spaces, of course they can. And barbershops are usually a place that's seen, in a positive light. It's somewhere where your self-esteem is usually, unless they do a bad job, but I mean, if they do a good job, your self-esteem is immediately boosted. So there's so many things playing, a positive impact on your brain that allows it to be a good space to have conversations. But then, you basically just need one person in there to be open and just being okay with having a conversation. So men who are listening, this is a man saying that this is a nice place and that it works, and we learned this during our course as well,
Yeah.
that places like barbershops are good places to have conversations. So maybe next time you go, right, just talk to someone. See if somebody else there needs somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Because maybe you don't have anything to talk to, but just being a listening ear goes a long way, right?
Yes, for sure.
All right, so I'm looking at the time. Yes, and we have like 5 minutes. I'm getting a 5 sign. Um, but anything else that you feel that really stood out that you would want to share? I just want to go over real quickly on the Caribbean male gender roles. And I just wanted, I was listening to a podcast yesterday, Meghan Markle's Archetypes. If you haven't listened to it, I really encourage you to. She talks about female archetypes, but then for her last episode, she decided to have conversations with men. And one of the people she was talking to was Trevor Noah. Some of you may know him. He's an activist as well. But he was saying that what he has found is that gender roles, especially for men, are so limiting. They limit men to be in this little box. And when I saw the gender roles that Caribbean men mostly identified with, that's what I felt. I was like, this must be, because I mean, I don't know what it feels like, but this must be really stressful to live and look at these, boxes and just striving to check them.
Yeah, but I think
And not being a whole person,
I think in one of the presentations, I can't remember exactly, but I think they mentioned about, I think it was Nevis, where a retired police officer, where he did sessions with both males and females and have various sessions and tell them that this gender doesn't define who you are. I mean, well, role doesn't define who you are as a male and female, and showing them that they can do everything, and it's just a matter of understanding, communicating, okay, I'm going to do this today, I'm going to do that tomorrow, but not necessarily saying, okay, male, this is your job, this is what you are limited to, and females, this is what you are required. And I believe that was an amazing initiative, and the rest of us in the Caribbean should actually adapt it and actually teach our young males and females, you are not limited to just this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can be whoever you
You want
want
to
to
be,
be,
yes.
and whatever that looks like, regardless of, the sex you were born in or the gender you choose to identify with. We really need to kind of let go of these boxes. And I think that women in general and women in the Caribbean have done a really good job at letting go at these boxes because there has been a lot of work around the world and in the Caribbean to empower women. But I think that a lot has to be done for men. And, you know, to just allowing them the space and encouraging and empowering men to let go of those, you know, strict rules and boxes that they have been living in. And hopefully that will in turn also create a more fair, you know, equitable world for us all.
You know, I tell my students all the time, I even when I'm doing a presentation, your current situation, society, or you were saying something?
No, no, no.
Oh, I was telling them that your current situation and society doesn't define who you are or even where you are going to be. And I tell them, you are the author of your life, whether it be a success or a failure. You are in full control. Never give society the opportunity to pick up your pen. At the end of the day, you are responsible for making your own decisions, coming up with your own belief, and living by your values. No one else can tell you how to live, what is acceptable sometimes, but not a lot. But I mean, to say you are in control, you are writing your own story. No one else can write that for you, because when you fail, they are going to say, let's say, try, fail, da 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 da. But at the end of the day, that was the story that you were writing. But failure is just a lesson learned. Don't see it as something that's impeding you from going to the next step or achieving more. We all learn by trial and error.
I think that was really nicely put. Really, you are in control of your life, right? And that means whatever role you want to take up in life. Yeah, as long as you don't hurt anybody else. I just want to say that.
Of course.
Jomelia, is there anything else that you want to share that stood out to you or that you want people to take home as a message, right? I mean, maybe they're home, maybe they're not, but you know, you understand what I'm saying.
One of the things that stood out to me when we participated in this training is how just not how to be an advocate, but how to be an impactful advocate. And I do think that we sometimes have a lot to say, but then we also not navigating through the appropriate networks to say it. And then sometimes we think that we alone could handle it. So one of the things that they spoke about was collaborating and creating your own community. One person obviously cannot just advocate for gender-based violence, and the more you put it out through different networks, different channels, is the more persons that you're going to be gathering in. The more people who are aware of this issue is the more that policymakers are going to be like, okay, wait, it's not just Jamila outside my office 5 times a day yelling we need to change gender-based violence. It's majority of persons in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, because strength come within numbers. So something that I would like to tell persons out there who are listening is that collaborate. I know sometimes we don't like working with persons, but even if it's government places like gender affairs, Ministry of Mobilization, or different youth groups like the one I'm a part of, get people talking, get people going, and get people talking on different platforms as well, and not just like Tyeisha was talking about, complaining. Because then, be honest, if somebody come up to you and be like, gender-based violence is a problem, you're not like, okay,
Yeah.
but what are you going to do about it?
Yes.
When we do talk, we also need to speak about what are we going to do about it. What are the solutions about it. So part of being an impactful advocate is not just saying this is the problem, but also solutions to the problem. Because then you're talking to people about this problem and they're like, okay, cool, I can't think of anything right now. But then if I not bombard you, but if I educate you with different solutions, different policies that we could do, it's like, wait, I could give that a try. So I do think strength are in numbers, whether it be a match, whether we keep doing podcast episodes like this, whether we do YouTube channels, TikToks, because that's in right now, Reels on IG, get the message out there, especially to the youths.
Yes.
Yes.
Ladies, thank you so much for this conversation. I think we could talk for hours, right? Because we're so passionate about it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be advocates on these topics. I am so grateful that we were able to participate, that we were chosen from the pool. I mean,
Yes.
once I
How much it
read,
was? 100
and 131
Yeah.
people applied for the scores, and it was about 30 of us who got selected.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, I feel honored, and I think that we are all doing a really good job in our, you know, own communities, but also how this provided us a place to network and be
Yeah.
able to keep these conversations going, and you know, just having you here, but also you, Jomelia, you know, through technology we have to make use of that, and just having these conversations. So thank you so much for, you know, saying yes and being here today. I appreciate you, and I look forward to more conversations, and yes, we'll be sharing more about this. So if you want, go ahead. I will be obviously sharing stories with Tyeisha and Jomelia's socials, but just get in touch with like-minded people, right?
Yes, that
Follow
is
the
very
right people.
imperative.
Yes. So thank you so much. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Share
Thank
this
you for having
episode.
me. Thank you for having us.
Thank
You
you for
are
having us,
welcome.
of course.
It was a pleasure. So share this episode if you loved it, if you think that somebody could learn, if this could start a conversation with somebody else. Do share, and remember that you can rewatch, but you can also re-listen. And also, I will be doing polls or questions on Wednesday, and then you can participate to win fun giveaways in regards to these topics, right? Thank you so much. Thank you to Sopi Mix Studio for allowing me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. And thank you to my awesome sponsors, to Neutrogena, to Febreze, to Proframe for believing in these conversations. And sincerely, Carolina. I will see you again next week. Bye. Well, that was fun. I hope you learned a new thing or two during this episode. Remember, you can win fun prizes during Learn and Win Wednesday quizzes on my Instagram. Share this episode if you loved it, and I will see you again next week. Bye. Sincerely, Carolina is powered by Proframe Aruba, Neutrogena, and Febreze.